So welcome back to the Unconventional Edge, where we are elevating your brand beyond the norm. And I am your host, Charday Oldacre, and this is episode 2 of our Rewired for Relevant series. I am so excited about today's episode. We have a very, very special guest, and her name is Magdalena, but I call her Lena for short. And she is our purpose strategist here at New Way. She's been with me through the trenches, okay? Through really figuring this thing out for about what, about 5 years now, I believe. And so I am super excited. You all are in for a treat. And so today's conversation is all about elevating your brand, but with purpose. And so I couldn't think of anybody else better to have on this conversation with me than Lena. Lena, thank you so much for being here with me today. I appreciate it. How are you?
Absolutely great. I'm so excited to be here and talking about purpose. So excited.
Absolutely. So today's conversation is all about how we are going to explore what it means to lead with purpose and why it's more than just a buzzword, right? So we're going to communicate, we're going to help you communicate your mission in ways that are both not only authentic, but also impactful. All right, so grab your coffee, your notebook, and let's dive deep into the conversation. So, Lita, how about you kick it off with us and let us know what is purpose-driven branding?
Mm, Such a great question. I think I want to first start off with what it isn't, because there's functional purpose. The traditional hammer is only a hammer because it can drive nails into wood. There's operational purpose, which is good, missions and goals and keyword objectives. But then there's also evolutionary purpose. It's the brand taking on an identity and the
Mm,
business taking on an identity outside of the founder, beyond the team, and having its own clear mission pathway to getting to where it needs to be in the market, in the industry, and the customers it serves. So purpose-led
mm,
business is really about letting that come alive. I know for founders, it's hard to sometimes let the baby stand on its own 2 feet, but it takes on its own identity and it has its own mission, it has its own vision. And it then becomes a living piece, an evolutionary piece, because it's so easy to want to control it. But the brands that
mm,
have really succeeded are the ones that maybe move into different verticals or move with different markets or realize that their customer needs a little bit more than what they thought they should be starting off with. So that is
mm-hmm,
purpose-led businesses,
mm-hmm.
purpose-led
And,
brands.
and what can a business start to do or a brand start to do to lead more with purpose?
Mm, Love that question. I love speaking about it from the framework of not only leading with purpose, but like leading your work.
Mm,
Because whether you're the founder or whether you're the CMO, whatever role you're in, you're leading with purpose.
mm,
Um, so this might sound a little millennial, but like the idea that everybody can have a purpose within a company or within a brand is great. And there's definitely a lot of merit to that. But I don't think
mm.
that's the type of purpose we're speaking about here today.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really knowing that if I'm in my highest self, if I'm in my best version, I'm contributing to this birth, this baby, this brand having its best chance out there in the world. And
Mm-hmm.
if I'm leading my work as a founder, as a COO, as a CMO, then I'm able to enable that. So it's really about shifting the mindset to something of contribution and something I think you spoke about in the previous podcast, which is alignment, which is a
Mm-hmm.
whole other topic we could speak about.
Listen, you and I can have these conversations for days. So we're
Yeah.
so so we'll try to stay on topic here for
Mhm.
sure. So I love that. And so when we're talking about purpose-driven branding, and we're also talking about
Mm.
being authentic, we're talking about how do you stay true to yourself while not getting in the noise, right? While not seeing the latest trends and not getting swayed. So from your perspective, what do you
Mm.
think are some of the biggest, especially for the type of partners that we serve, right? So we've had the
Mm.
opportunity to serve brands from as small as startups to the federal government and everything else in between. What have you seen has been maybe some of the challenges that most brands have fallen into when it comes to trying to stay purposeful, but then also still trying to kind of stay within, let's say, a different trend, or let's say within, what is the latest topic? From a purpose strategist, what are some of those challenges that you've noticed?
Choosing perfection over purpose is definitely way high
Mm,
up there on the list. Trying to
okay.
be perfect and do what is expected. That's definitely something that holds us out of being purposeful and authentic. Then there's the whole idea of having to compete. I mean, we've spoken about the
Mm,
Charday quite a few times that red
mm,
ocean can be very luring. Like we've got to compete, we've got to keep our head above
mhm,
the water and
mm,
compete on price, compete on value. And while that's not the New Way game and it's none of our partners' game,
yeah,
it can take one away from purpose. It
yeah,
can really become something that we stab our toe on.
yeah.
So that need to compete with what we think the expectation is, that's a definite piece that holds us back. Rather than kind of going, how do I compete with myself? How do I compete with my
Mhm.
future self? How do I move closer to my future self? Those are more the orientating questions that come back to purpose and alignment and integrity and leadership rather than these other questions. So definitely trends, definitely perfection, definitely market expectations, even though we do
Mhm.
look at that when we do brand audits.
Yeah.
Um, and another piece is, yeah, looking at what the competition is doing and just assuming we have to jump with that.
Yeah.
Um, you know, from COVID to so many other recessions and changes in economy and industry, um, we're seeing that there's much more opportunities. There's much more value in thinking outside of the box than letting the box define who we need to be and how an agency or a brand or a retail supplier needs to be doing their work.
I love that. You're a hundred
Mm.
percent correct. We had a whole team
Mm.
meeting recently about perfection. So, my ears kind of like perked up when
Yes.
you said that a little bit.
Well, just when you
Because
asked that question, I heard your voice. I was like, perfection, that's the one.
no, because it's so true. I think a lot of times, as I can speak as entrepreneur myself, right? And as somebody who, this is my baby. This is my first baby before I had my real child. New Way was all I had. And so thinking about, wanting to stay purposeful, but sometimes the industry will demand you to kind of show up in a way that is not truly authentic to who you are. And it's really just having that pressure, right? So it's
Mm.
like wanting to compete because you're trying to get your name out there, you're trying to increase your visibility, you have a very unique, let's say, product or idea that you're solving a really great problem and you really want to get it out there. But
Mm.
unfortunately, depending on the market that you're in, you may be kind of late to the game. And so, how do you kind of disrupt the noise that's already out there? And so, a lot of times, when you're thinking about being impactful
Mm.
while staying true to your true authentic self, what is some ways or maybe some advice that you typically go? So I know you do a lot of in-depth brand strategies, a lot of brand audits for our partners. So what is
Mm.
maybe some methodologies or some or framework that you typically approach to kind of help those entrepreneurs stay aligned with staying purposeful to who they truly are and not going into the ways of trends and the latest hot topics and things like that?
Mm. I first want to jump to brand archetypes because I think that's a really powerful
Yes,
tool in being
yes.
able to allow the brand to become a living organism, a living,
Mm,
self-evolving piece that we can finally go, oh, hey, it's got its own DNA. Yes, it's got a bit
Mm-hmm.
of mommy and it's got a bit of daddy, it's got the shareholders, it's got the team, it's got all of these different pieces in there, but it's got its own identity in there. So
Mm-hmm.
brand archetypes is a great way of being able to go, wow, this brand is its own being, its own
Yes.
entity.
Yes.
And then in that, it's what is the relationship from the founder and the team to that brand entity? So, what roles and what sub-archetypes are they playing out around it? Um, Traditionally, is like, are you the big sister? Are you the mother? Like, what is those dynamics if we're kind of thinking
Mm-hmm.
about it like from family constellation? But
Mm-hmm.
essentially, there's a lot of different frameworks and archetype models that allow us to kind of go, where do we shine? If this is the brand, who am I in relation to the brand? Am I the
Mm.
person like on camera? Am I the person behind the scenes? And I know in New Way we have this living ecosystem where we're the eyes, we're the heart, we're the soul, we're
Yeah.
the fingers, we're all
Mm-hmm.
of these different parts. And knowing
Yeah.
who we are in that is so, so powerful because then we get to play out that ecosystem. So
Yeah.
that's definitely one of the tools.
Mm.
Then it also depends on our partners because we've done this purely with individuals, the founders themselves, when it's a very, very small, intimate party. We help them find their own inner purpose, their own inner goal, and their relationship with the brand. But also,
Mm-hmm.
once they have that team, we're looking at that whole team culture, their brand culture, and how do they take those values that normally go onto a wall and turn that into a living experience?
Mm.
So those are some of the tools, or those are hints at some of the tools. Um, it's kind of hard to pinpoint the tools because they are slightly different with different clients depending on
Yeah.
the needs of the brand, but
Yeah.
definitely archetypes, and definitely a lot of profiling tools, a
Yeah.
lot of mission work, a lot of visioning work, a lot of getting to understand who the stakeholders are in the
Mm-hmm.
business.
Yeah. I love that. It's something that I just want
Mm.
to kind of piggyback on. You talked about how we provide those various frameworks or touch points so the individual team members can identify themselves in the bigger picture. So, for a lot of times, so for those you don't know, I typically say that Lynn is the heart of the company, right? So, she is typically, you think about the function. And so, one thing that I do is I look at the strengths of our team members and I say that we are acting as one body. In the same way you have various organs and limbs and different functionalities in a person, I relate that to our team members. And so with Lynn, I always say she's the heart of the company. The main reason is because everything typically has to flow through the heart, you know?
It's not my dog's
And
parties.
yeah, exactly. She would throw a dance party in a second. Uh, so, but Lena is really really great with making sure that we're not just delivering work, and we're not just hitting deliverables, but we really are staying true and authentic to ourselves. And she does it in a way where she holds us all accountable to the vision and to our core archetype, but she doesn't do it, but she does it in a way that allows people to still express themselves individually. And I think that is the beauty about leading your brand with purpose. Because a lot of times you think, okay, well, this is the format. I now have to like try to fit my way into this box
Mm.
that this brand archetype, which is those who don't know, it's like your brand personality. So I have to try to fit myself into this personality that is not natural for me. Whereas with branding, if you do it correctly, it should be a livable, breathing exercise that you're able to fit in comfortably, right? You're not trying to force your way into it, but it really embodies who you are in all honesty. Selena, so So when it comes to strategy, how can
Mhm.
leaders ensure that their brand's purpose isn't just a marketing message, but something that's really woven into every aspect of their business?
That is a really, really great question, and a lot of things that a lot of founders and a lot of brands struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I see that they struggle with that is because it's so easy to put values up on a wall or put a pool table in a room or
Mm-hmm.
do team icebreakers for the sake of doing team icebreakers, but they don't really connect with the brand experience.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Mm.
answer that I would bring to that would be something that we do here at New Ways, which is brand living experiments. How do you put your brand into practice? How do
Yeah.
you put it into your practice throughout your different touch points? So maybe even your error page has a bit of that branding and a bit of that
Yep.
culture to it, but also in terms of your internal culture. I remember we did our New Way communication guide for the very, very first time. And a team member
Yeah.
read it, digested it, loved it. And I believe it was you had either a birthday or some personal event coming up, Charday.
Uh-huh.
And she just completely digested this thing. And she goes, based on our culture, based on the experience, based on a couple of interactions, I'm going to create this whole big thing because this is the way we celebrate it.
Yep.
And that was just such a testament to not giving rules and prescriptions on how to do the work,
Yep. Yep.
but giving a felt experience of here's a sample of what New Way looks like today, or New Way looks like tomorrow, or your brand looks like today, and your brand looks like
Yep.
tomorrow.
Yep.
And then kind of finding your own way and making it your own. So these brand living experiments are really powerful ways to put that into practice. Because once you own your brand, it's your responsibility
That's right.
to stay accountable to feeding the brand, to nurturing the brand.
That's
And
right.
it's through all of these different touch points that you can really do that.
Mm-hmm. I love that. It kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about
Mm.
making a brand that you don't have to try to fit into a box, right? But
Yes,
it
yes, yes.
creates it to where the brand is big enough and it can expand, right, as needed to allow people to show up, to truly be themselves, but do it in a way that still aligns with your core mission and values as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I love that. So, as we continue to think about, I kind of want to stay on that topic, Lena, with brand
Okay.
living experiences, because I think that is something where for us we do it all day long, right? We that is our common language. But for somebody
Mm.
who this may be new to them, can you kind of define what a brand living experience is, if you don't mind?
Great question. So I cannot define it for everybody because it's going to look different for everybody, but the core of
Mm-hmm.
it or the structure of it is think of it as your own signature intellectual property. How does your brand communicate? How does your brand communicate in rooms when you're not there? How does your
Mm-hmm.
brand facilitate conversations? How does your brand connect your stakeholders, your team, your customers, so that it's inherently, as Charday, you often said, the best employee in the room. So
That's
it's
right.
looking at that signature and based on archetypes, based on frameworks, based on visions, missions, and purposes, that's going to look slightly different for everybody. Not everyone's going to be throwing dance parties as part of
Mm-hmm.
their onboarding experience,
Yeah.
but it's knowing what's going to put you in the groove, so to speak, so that
Mm-hmm.
your brand has the best standing ground and that
Mm-hmm.
you can be in your best position possible. So it does rely on different key members. So if the team is a little bit more introverted, what do we need to support the
Mm-hmm.
team that's a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more introverted to be able to maybe step a little bit outside their comfort zone, but not too
Mm-hmm.
much? If the team's a little bit more extroverted, how do we
Yep.
facilitate that process? But it really ultimately comes down to touch points in business
Mm-hmm.
speak. How do we make sure that every single touch point, internal and external, is a facilitated experience that is absolutely on brand?
I love that. So that
Okay.
drives me to my next question then. So you talked about those various touch points, right? So with purpose
Mm-hmm.
driven branding, of course, we're, as business owners, as entrepreneurs, or just as business leaders, somebody who's listening to this, they may say, okay, this is all well and good from a emotional driven standpoint or from a philosophical standpoint, but how do I take this with my marketing messages so we can also bring about results, right? How do we then take purpose driven branding and
Mm.
translate it to where people can see an impact or it can see a result either in engagement or their bottom line? How does that all connect together?
Mm. I love that question. And it's a really, really, really important question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the answer to this question from my experience is not so much show, not so much tell, but show, and
Mm.
not so much show, but lead,
Oh,
where
that's
we've
good.
seen our clients lead the work. Um, we've seen them owning their brand experience and showing up in their new caliber. They show up as their ruler. They lean into their sage, going back to those brand archetypes.
Mm-hmm.
And they start embodying these practices. People start noticing them in a different way. And we've seen
Mm-hmm.
this almost instantly on the other side of brand strategy conversations, where even before we go into the rebranding process or the original branding process, there's a recalibration in the team. They start
Mm-hmm.
showing up at a different level.
That's true.
Their business and their branding actually align. And I think that's the biggest ROI because it's so easy to think of branding as something an ad agency or a marketing agency does, which is just a logo on the side of the world, and not seeing the relationship it has with business and keeping these two things separate. But when your brand serves your business and your business serves your brand, which is a critical piece that we do here at New Way, then that ROI starts to show up much quicker. And we've already seen that 2 weeks down the line from a brand strategy to a month down the line,
Mm-hmm.
where people are answering the phone differently. People are walking up and having new stakeholder conversations. They have the confidence to go after a big deal because they now have the infrastructure that they need to be in the room with the right players and play the right game. And that is priceless. That is
Yeah.
absolutely priceless. And then start stacking that with marketing collateral, like a logo and a business card and a website and all of these other pieces that are then built with purpose, functional purpose. So, how does it serve your
Mm.
business? Then we start seeing more and more ROI coming down the line. So, it also
Wait, so
depends on
you
where the client is coming.
so you
Yeah.
mean to tell
Okay.
me that I can't just start with the logo and that's it?
Mhm.
Is that what you're
No.
telling me? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Start with a
you
brand.
yeah, you
Start
said
with a
something.
brand.
You said something that I really want to dive a little bit deeper, and it
hmm
was so impactful. You said aligning the business with the brand. And a
hmm
lot of times people think that a brand is the business, but there is a separation between the two. Unpack that a little bit more for us, Lena. So from your perspective, from what you've learned and gathered over the years, is it possible for a brand, I'm sorry, is it possible for a business to not have a brand then, based upon what you're saying? And if
Oh yeah.
so, what is that impact? Okay, yeah, talk to us.
Well, first of all, it's going to be very transactional. So there are a lot of businesses out there that don't have a brand, even if they do have a logo.
Ooh,
And
so good.
those
So good.
businesses that have a logo or don't have a logo, usually have a logo, maybe a not high quality one, they might go out there and they might be able to sell product. Let's assume that they can.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll get that first round, they'll get some clients coming back, but they're not getting clients coming back again. So they're coming out into the market with this very one-trick pony. There's no foresight, there's no longevity plan, there's nothing sticky bringing them back. There's no real
Mm.
value expectations. There's no unique selling proposition really coming through. It's all transactional rather than transformational. So
Whew.
businesses can work at that level, But you're not going to scale at that level. You're going to burn yourself out at that level. You're going to get bad PR coming down the line at some point on that level because it's not sustainable. Because you haven't built
Mm-hmm.
a foundation. That's a brand. A brand
Oh.
is the foundation. Business is the mechanics. It's the track. It's the operating system. It's the
This is good.
processes.
Yeah, this is
But
so good.
you need think of it as a sandwich. Brand lives underneath and above the business. There's the external
Mm.
brand, the internal brand, and then there's the business in between.
So let's talk through that internal. We're so off topic in terms of like the questions I had, but this is such a great. I love having. It's been a while. We've had a chance to just to talk about branding. We get so caught up into execution. So Lynn and I can have a 3 hour conversation about this, but we'll try to
Mhm.
keep it. We'll try to condense it. So okay, you talked about internal branding. Now, internal branding, a lot of times people may think it could be, let's say, their internal communications guide, or they may think that it is, let's say, their style guide. But as we know, internal branding goes a whole lot deeper. Talk to the audience about the difference, about those layers of the sandwich that you spoke about, the internal branding and that external branding.
Mhm.
Talk to us about what is internal branding and how does that fit with external branding as well.
Mm. Whoa. Okay, 10 hours, 10 hours to go. So, yes, your style guide plays a part in that. Your documentation plays a part in that. Your communication guide, which is what your unique communication signature across video, across emails, across workflows, that plays
Mm-hmm.
a part of it. But those are parts of the whole experience. Internal brand culture also includes your team dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
What's the stated hierarchy versus the actual hierarchy? Like how are communications really happening in your business? Who's
Mm-hmm.
really speaking to who? And what is that flow dynamics happening there?
Yeah.
It is your onboarding culture. How quick can you onboard? Do you have a retention model? Like, are people staying? Are people really wanting to work with part of this brand? Is there a growth path in it as
Mm.
well? These are all things that are part of an internal brand. Yes, values. So you can have your business values, but you can also have your brand values. You can also have your
That's right.
team values. You can have departmental values. All
That's
of
right.
these things are playing out in different ways, and they're all serving a higher purpose
That's
at the
right.
end of the day. But we've got to get clear on which purpose we're serving. Is
That's
it
right.
functional, operational purpose? Or are we
Mm-hmm.
actually serving something that's going to keep moving us forward? Something
Mm.
like a true north compass or a
Yes.
north star. Because otherwise, we're only kind of going between here and here
That's
rather
right.
than moving forward. So there's a lot of elements that go into an internal culture.
Mm-hmm.
But really, it does come down to looking at your inner team, your inner relationships with clients, your communication frameworks, your operating systems, what tools you have. It's not just the technology, it's how does that actually serve your business and your brand?
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
Hmm.
So what I'm hearing about is connection, right? I'm
Yes.
hearing connection. I'm hearing, branding is you said the word earlier, transformational. And
Mm.
a part of that transformational is also being relational as well.
Yes. And
And so
alignment as well.
in alignment, absolutely. So when we think about, you know, with brands, what are maybe some creative ways that you believe organizations or brands can align their mission with deepening connections?
Mm. So mission is, I'm going to take missions from the framework of our how. So we've got the vision,
Okay.
the what, the
Mm-hmm.
purpose, the why. And missions very often fall into the how territory. Like, how are we going to serve this
Mm-hmm.
community? How are we going to
Yep.
implement this particular pace? And again, that depends on the type of mission. Are we transactional? Are we just here to do a mission to get the job done? Or we're doing
Mhm.
transformational missions, which is in service of a higher vision, in service of a higher purpose, stakeholders, shareholders,
Mhm.
community, network, so forth.
Mhm.
So, assuming we're going to go with the transformational mission, which is the best invitation out there in the planet, it is really knowing your vision. So,
Mhm.
if you are here and you want to be here, what is going to be that bridge?
Mhm.
We often start with what we have. And it's a good place to start. But when we start with what we have, there's 3,000 paths to get anywhere. And
That's
we
right.
have no depth perception of how easy that path is because we can't really tell the angle or the projection that we need to go on when we're going on that mission. But if we anchor it in our vision or ultimately our purpose, the
Mhm.
pathway is a lot easier because we see it's a 180-degree down angle or it's a 45-degree slant or it's a slight turn to the left.
Mhm.
So focusing on doing those big picture exercises, which comes back to that relationship between brand and business, is really, really
Mhm.
important. We spend a lot of time at New Ways making sure that those two trains are moving in the same direction, that they're going towards the same goals. So it's all of your vision casting exercises. It's all of your different team charters, really looking at are we on mission? How are we setting the right
Mhm.
goals? Do we know what our goals are?
That's right.
And we do a lot of that in what we call our creative strategy session, which is that
That's
place
right.
where we bring purpose and the business
Mhm.
plan together. So
Yep.
it's really unpacking the business plan, but not in your normal transactional way, but how's it actually
Mhm.
going to get you closer to that finish line?
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of nuances for a lot of different businesses, but essentially it's going to come down to that vision forecasting.
That's right. That's right. I think a lot of times organizations they forget how important it is to do vision casting.
Hmm.
Is so they may do it beginning of the year or ending of the year, but it's so important to do that on a quarterly basis. So Lena, you've been with the company for a very very long time,
Hmm.
and you've seen a lot of different changes. You've been a part of a lot of the growth that we have in the company as well. Um, at one point, you was the CEO of the company when I had to go on maternity leave. So, you've been in all levels of leadership within this organization. From understanding the importance of vision based upon what you just spoke about, and especially with that internal branding, how has it been for you personally to experience those vision casting meetings? Like, what has that done for you as somebody um, working at New Way, but then also being a leader in New Way? How has that shaped you? As a team member, as a leader within the company. What has those vision casting meetings done for you personally?
It really, as an individual, me and myself, it's helped me know what am I part of? What am I
Mm-hmm.
co-creating? What am I
Mm-hmm.
contributing to?
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that this is something I want to contribute to and I'm all in, what can I find within myself that I can add value with? So it's so easy for the guys on top, the founders, the top level executives to hold an idea back. And I
Mm-hmm.
get the reasons why we do it psychologically. I mean, we've seen clients, especially who are in the startup spaces, where they share their idea and there's just so many naysayers and people who don't believe
Mm-hmm.
in them that they lose that confidence
Mm-hmm.
and they almost crumble on their own idea. But ultimately, if you're not sharing the idea with a trusted fold, they're not going to know how to contribute.
That's
And they
right.
don't even know if they're going to be part of this mission or why there are these changes or what is the plan going on. And psychologically, and even from an HR perspective, we see that that's also been one of the big drivers why so many people have left companies. because
Mm-hmm.
they no longer see themselves in the future of it. They don't quite
Right.
understand the changes, especially if there are changes within a company or within a vision or rebranding. We 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 want the familiar. And if we don't know where this is going and why we're doing it, it can feel like a personal attack. So
Mm,
vision castings are a a safety mechanism. They create safe spaces for companies that really value safe spaces. They invite collaboration and buy-in and teams to go, hey, let's add and bring something more to this equation.
mm-hmm.
And it helps streamline the process as well, so that branding and business are again working together.
Yeah.
So from both sides, I've seen that. And um, it's made a huge difference from holding that leadership role. When somebody knows, oh, this is the game plan.
Yeah.
This is what we're trying to do. Um, and they just feel really trusted. They feel like they're part of something really special. It's like you let me be part of your vision for what you're trying to create. That's really, really special.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of value in it. There's a lot of functionality in it, and there's a lot of meaning in it.
Absolutely. No, as we're talking about, how to make your mission matter, and you talked about that your
Mm.
mission is your, you said as your how, is that correct?
Yeah, how? Yeah.
Yep, your how. So how to make your mission matter. And it really does go by bringing people into, it's okay with being vulnerable
Mm.
also, sharing the vision. And doing so at New Way, we have a vision casting meeting quarterly. So beginning of top of every quarter, we have a vision casting meeting. And then I have literally have seen how one vision casting meeting will springboard everybody to completely shift gears. I mean, the one that we had, our very first one for the year, the F1 pit stop, I think that was the one, that was the vision casting call that I looked up and everybody was like, okay, I'm changing my role. I'm changing my responsibilities. I'm going to focus in on this. But it made us such a stronger team, you
Mm.
know. I think it gave everybody a deeper sense of purpose and connection within their own role. And they started to realize, you know what, I love doing this, and I do this well, but my purpose is in doing X, Y, and Z. And I think we saw a lot of that alignment within the team. Would you
It's
say so?
definitely, and even in that meeting, but also in envisioning, and thanks for bringing this up,
Hmm.
it inspires leadership because leadership isn't
Hmm.
only something that happens up here and maybe in the next year. It's
That's right.
something that everybody could do because if you're leading your
That's
work,
right.
even if you're lower down in the hierarchy in that space, you're able to do something meaningful and you're able to contribute. So it's a great way to share leadership,
That's
which is
right.
so needed in this world right now.
Absolutely. Giving people a responsibility. Is that correct? Of how I'm understanding the conversation, Lena?
Absolutely, absolutely. And what one way that I can summarize that is it's part of bringing a culture of responsibility over
Hmm.
accountability. Accountability is important, but responsibility is a culture of leadership, and a culture of
Yeah.
leadership is a culture of action, and a culture of action is a culture of purpose because purpose is a forward moving motion. Purpose is not about kumbaya and
Yeah.
breathe in and just exhale.
Yeah. Hmm.
Purpose is driven to evolve.
Yeah. So one thing that you love is,
Mm.
creating a space for play.
Oh, yeah.
You love doing that. So can you share how creating a space for play helps brands connect more authentically with their purpose?
Mm. Imagine having the place where you don't always have to have the right answer, where you
Hmm.
can literally brainstorm and experiment with what's available. I love the design thinking model. What is, what if, what works, what wows.
Mm.
It's a great framework of a kind of going, okay, this is what we're experiencing, but what if? And if we don't
Hmm.
have that place to suspend disbelief, to step outside of the framework and ask what if, or even why questions,
Mm-hmm.
like purpose questions.
That's right.
We're not going to be able to shift that paradigm because then we're stuck in everything we started the phone call, everything we started the podcast with, which
Mm-hmm.
is playing against competition, playing against the trends, playing
Yeah,
against the expectations, playing against functional purpose.
that's right.
So play allows us to step a little bit outside of the trauma and the drama, to not have to play defense or attack when we're feeling really sold on our idea or our solution or having our voice heard. And
Mm-hmm.
it allows us to look at things in different ways. And there's so many techniques out there to play, but it
Mm-hmm.
really does. And again, it works with different brands and different spaces in different ways.
Yeah.
Not every brand should have a dance party
Yeah.
or do a TikTok challenge.
Yeah.
Then don't do it. It's
Yes.
finding your own unique way to play.
That's right.
Um, but it really opens up conversations. It allows vulnerability, which you spoke about, Charday, which is so
Mm-hmm.
important in business
Mm-hmm.
because I, I love the idea that we're not just selling B2C, business
Mm-hmm.
to client or customer,
Yeah.
B2B, business to business, but human to human.
That's
And we
right.
forget that.
That's
We
right.
forget who's actually on the other side.
That's right.
And by me coming into play, I'm able to remember that I'm not talking to a suit. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
talking to an exec and I'm not talking to a business card. I'm talking to another human.
That's right.
And his idea of play or her idea of play may be completely different. It may be Dungeons and
Mm-hmm.
Dragons. It may be
Mm-hmm.
something that's completely out of my style of freedom. But by coming into play, I'm able to connect a whole lot more. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of business merit, psychological merit, branding merit, and just human merit, especially now with
Mm-hmm.
AI, where it's
Mm.
just be more efficient, more effective, produce more and more and more. There's
Yeah.
more and more reasons to play.
That was really, really good information. So, for business owners and for leaders who may be feeling stuck or just unsure on how to implement some of these strategies or how to say, okay, you know what, I heard everything that you're saying, but how do I lead with purpose? What is one exercise that you can give them to kind of help them understand how to lead with purpose in their brand?
Oh, one exercise,
Just one.
just one. I want to pull back to the brand living experiment
Okay.
because I think that's a really rich play.
Okay.
And let's maybe pull into something a little bit more internal culture because once we get the internal brand culture and the internal branding right, it's easier to kind of start looking at flipping that switch to what we do publicly.
Mm-hmm.
So, an exercise I would give is an embodiment exercise.
Okay.
And this can be done virtually or in a room or hybrid. And okay, I'm gonna go with music. I'm gonna go with
Yep. Go
music
for
because
it.
it's,
Go
it's
for
it's
it.
just a really great place to start. So picking
Yeah.
normally a nice cinematic piece of music
Okay.
because it has a
Okay.
lot of mood to it, and it doesn't require performance or too much
Mm.
extroversion. It allows the introverts in the room to play and breaking the team up into smaller groups of people. So ideally a group of three, if not four, depending on how
Okay.
big the group is. And
Okay.
it would be one person would be dancing or embodying the brand. The other would be watching the person who's dancing. And then
Mm.
the person riding the brand. The other person would be taking what the person's dancing and turning it into words or values. And then the last person would be reflecting on the experience. It's a very interesting psychological exercise because people have different restrictions or different blocks, and it is quite a different experience to do.
Mm-hmm.
Very often it reveals not just extroversion and introversion in the room, but it allows the unspoken words to come through because it's not a
Mm-hmm.
said experience. So you don't know if somebody's trying to express creativity or somebody's trying to express a specific value set. You get to experience a feeling of what's really happening in the room. What
Mm-hmm.
are they trying to portray in the space? And it's a really interesting piece to kind of then read into what is being communicated.
Mm-hmm.
This could be used to reveal tension in a room. It can be revealed to reveal the company culture or the goals and the dreams of the room, or just how we think the brand is being perceived.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of use cases for an exercise like that. If
Mm-hmm.
that is slightly too esoteric or way out
Mm-hmm.
there, which it can be for a lot of more conservative brands, which we also work
Mm-hmm.
with, we know how to scale it back.
Yeah.
Um, and that would then be more of a journaling exercise where people would
Mm-hmm.
pair off in different pieces and they would be sharing their experience, written form, and then presenting it to their peer.
Yeah.
You get to see this is a great place to play. It's a great place to get a different viewpoint. So you get to practice stepping outside the box. Because if
Mm-hmm.
we were paired up and we were in a more conservative environment and not wanting to dance, you would see a problem from a different angle than I would see it.
Mm-hmm.
And by writing it out, we're not projecting our thoughts onto each other. We're allowing ourselves to really connect with what we're feeling. And then we're able to speak to it. So there's less of a charge of I'm right
Mm-hmm.
or I'm wrong or I'm more extroverted and I'm going to dominate the conversation because it's already all written down. So
Yes.
that can be a powerful place. But again, different companies, different brands, different organizations have different signatures. So
Mm-hmm.
we would help you kind of carve out what the best tool for would be for your particular team dynamic or for the particular issue that you're dealing with.
All right. So now here we are going into our new insight, our final word. So Lena, as our
Mm,
special guest today, I would love it if you can give us a new insight for our final word today. So imagine a brand that has lost its way. It's disconnected from its audience and they're struggling to find their footing. If you were
mm,
leading a retreat, or let's say one of these amazing exercises that you just went over with us, but it's to help them reconnect with their purpose, what is the first exercise or approach you'd introduce to kind of guide them back to alignment?
love that question. So the
Mm-hmm.
obvious ones would be, what does the market want? What's the
Mm-hmm.
competitors doing? All great questions, all important, but they can get us stuck in a bit of a red ocean.
Yep.
So it would be, where have we been? Where are we going? And what is that
Mm-hmm.
tension between the two? So a great
Yep.
experience or an example of this would be, I'm actually going to tell you about a coaching example that I did.
Okay.
Um, so put yourself, first of all, in the place that you're starting.
Okay.
No, notice yourself in the room. And so this is
Mm-hmm.
another embodied exercise. You're now sitting in where you are. All your successes, but also with all your fears, all your failures, all
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts, all your doubts, what the bank account is doing, what the bank account isn't doing, all of those
Mm-hmm.
different things. And allow yourself to really feel that.
Mm-hmm.
And I would take them through more of a visualizing exercise. There might be some music as well, cinematic, with those down tones and those light tones to really viscerally feel into the darker side, to feel into the hope, to feel into those different places. And then just notice that. That's where you're starting with.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want you to find a different place in the room, further towards the stage or toward closer to where I'd be standing and presenting from.
Mm-hmm.
And This is your future self.
Mm,
And as you walk towards your future self, the problems that you're experiencing right now fall away because this is you 10 years down the line. We would have solved problem X, problem Y. AI has now come in. We're experiencing this. Customers are doing shopping in different ways. So the
mm-hmm,
problems that we've already identified collectively in the room will start to fall away because of imagining exercises we've done or because of where the market is projected to go. So now you arrive in your new spot. And this space, you're embodying your future self, you 10 years down
mm,
the line. You can put a little golden circle around you. You can imagine putting yourself in a crown, whatever it needs to feel visually different. You might even want to take glasses off or just
mm-hmm,
change something about your hair so that you physically feel that little bit different.
mm-hmm,
And to notice how far you've traveled from where you originally started.
mm. That's good.
Now, you didn't have to do anything to earn this place. You've just arrived.
That's so good. That's
You
so
didn't
good.
need to do anything. You've arrived. How quick do you want to move back?
Mm,
How long can you stay in this position without letting the old thoughts come back in, the old issues come back in? And can you still see that version of yourself where you started? That Charday that you left across the room in that other position.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And what do what do you see in her? Because now you're more mature, you're 10 years down the line. So it's a bit of a visioning exercise to tap into your future adult self, project
mm-hmm.
back and bring that wisdom back to you. But it's also noticing how you're able to embody a different state.
Yeah.
Because when you do return back to your original placement and your original seat, you're going to notice that tension.
Mm-hmm,
And tension is good, stress isn't. Tension is what you need to want to change from here to here. Without it, you're
mm,
not going to want to be here. There's nothing compelling you. The problem is we're here, and we choose stress over tension. And if we're not able to shift that and to actually say that this is the thing that's going to propel me to come into my future self or my future brand, then we're not going to be able to really start making those shifts. And by this point in the exercise, we've already done visioning exercises, we've already looked at brand, we've already looked at business. So already know what's possible. You've already untapped your skills. So you're already thinking about this future you. We've already played, right? You're already thinking about this future you very differently because now you're coming in with what if. So when you
mm-hmm.
do return back to what is, very different game plan. And then it's about how do we make sure your business and your brand is moving in the right direction to get you there. How about that,
Wow.
Charlie?
Wow. Wow. That was so good. I was like in the moment. I had to remind myself I'm doing a podcast recording, so I can't. So I was getting in
Sure,
there, but
sure.
it was good. That's good. Oh
Mm-hmm.
wow, Lena, this has been such amazing, amazing conversation. Listen, I told you all you were in for a treat. I told you you were in for a treat. So thank you so much for joining us on the Unconventional Edge. If you enjoyed this episode as much as I have enjoyed this conversation, do not forget to subscribe and leave us a review. These reviews is what helps us know how to grow, what to change, and just how you're appreciating it, or if not, hopefully you are. So if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like and really comment with your biggest takeaway. And I will just say, if you have thoroughly enjoyed the conversation with Lena, New Ways Purpose Strategist, shoot us a message and I will make sure we can give you. Should we give them a freebie, Lena? Should we do anything special?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yes.
Let's do
Yay!
it. Let's do.
Playtime!
Let's
Playtime! Playtime!
let's
Playtime!
let's do this. Let's do this. If you are still watching, and the first two people, three people, how
Three. Let's do
the
three.
first three people, the first three people that comment purpose branding, you will receive a free one-on-one meeting with Lena to go over some deeper work that she has gone over with us right here. So if you have enjoyed it, if you listened to it, and if it really resonated with you, be one of the first three people to go ahead and comment purpose branding. And I will make sure you have somebody from our team reach out to you and to invite you into a conversation with our very own Magdalena, our purpose strategist here at New Way. So you can also experience this for yourself, because ultimately we want to help you create a purpose driven brand. So until next time, I will see you all again. I am also excited about our next episode, where we're going to explore how CEOs can resist chasing short-term trends like TikTok trends, or and all those other types of Instagram algorithm trends, trying to stay on top and beat the algorithm. So we're going to talk about resisting the urge to chasing those trends, and how you can instead build a brand strategy that's really rooted in authenticity and long-term relevance. So I am super excited about that. It's going to be a one-on-one conversation with you and I. So until next time, stay bold, stay authentic, stay inspired, and don't forget to do something new. Thank you.